Hi everyone, I'm Armor Gaming. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Mr. Flaky. Do you believe in magic? This illusionist has many tricks up his sleeves and under his hat, but his favorite is the one in which he takes all of his enemies' life away. What a gruesome description for Monster Legends. Anyways, here we have him as a child, as a teen, as an adult, and I gotta say I absolutely love his adult form. It is by far one of the best designs in Monster Legends, and I gotta say magic monsters always blow me away with their design. So Mr. Flaky, design alone, he gets a 10 out of 10, but now let's look at his stats. Mr. Flaky has a power of 3,223, and unfortunately this is not one of the higher powers for magic monster. Out of the 22 monsters, as of the time I'm recording this video, there's 22 magic monsters, and out of those 22, this puts him in number 13. So it's a rather mediocre power. His life is 28,651, and again, out of the 22 magic legendary monsters in the game, it puts him in at number 9, a rather mediocre life. And his speed, unfortunately, is a little worse than that. It's 3,399, and he's actually tied for 16th place. But if it's any consolation, he's tied with Egg Eater. And to make things slightly worse, his trait is immune to daze, which of course gives an immunity to daze. And that's honestly rather weird because magic monsters, they do tend to hand out lots of debuffs, but the best immunity against magic monsters is to have immune to possession. So not only does this monster have mediocre stats all around, including a rather poor speed, he also doesn't have a trait to back up his poor speed. So far things aren't looking that good for Mr. Flaky. However, I do have to note his design is definitely a 10 out of 10. So starting things off with his default skill, we have Mr. Flaky. Deals low physical damage, single target, 25 damage, 13 stamina, no cooldown. Then we have a magic default skill, at no time. Single enemy, 30 damage, 13 stamina, no cooldown, deals low magic damage. Okay, whatever. Skipping over to his special skill, tea time. Deals very heavy special damage to all enemies and ends them back in time. They become younger and deal 40% less damage. Apply stamina leak to all targets. So here we have it's an AoE, 60 damage, and the cool thing about here is that it sends them back in time. They become younger, deals 40% less damage. This is equivalent to Timerion's Time Machine skill. Now hopefully his description is correct and his special skill does do that, as well as applying stamina leak, because can you imagine all of your enemy monsters, their attacks dealing 40% less damage, and on top of that they're also losing stamina. This overall is a really good special skill and it's rather unique. It's really the first of its kind. Now one other thing that concerns me is that it doesn't show back in time here like it does with Timerion. Let me transition to Timerion. Here we have Timerion's Time Machine ability. All enemies transform to the younger stage, requires cooldown. It shows back in time, right? It doesn't necessarily show that here, but I'm hoping it is accurate, the description is accurate, and it will do both. If that is the case, this is a really cool, unique special. And moving on to Skills Group 1. Skills Group 1, we have an attack called Slowing Hat. Deals moderate special damage, 50% chance of slowing target. Single enemy, 35 damage, 26 stamina, no cooldown. So 50% chance of slowing the target. Chances are you are never going to land this skill. No reason to run this skill. We also have a skill called Against Time. Single enemy, 35 damage, 26 stamina, no cooldown. Deals moderate magic damage, 50% chance of blinding the target. Now you probably could land the skill, but any skill that's 50% chance to do XYZ is not worth running, so no reason to run Slowing Hat or Against Time. And speaking more about time, we have A Matter of Time. Deals moderate special damage, 50% chance of stunning the target. Single enemy, 35 damage, 26 stamina, no cooldown. Again, anything that's 50% chance of anything, it's not worth running, so we can completely disregard Skills Group 1. And that moves us into Skills Group 2. In Skills Group 2, we have an attack called Magic Hat. Deals moderate special damage, gains stamina regeneration. It attacks a single enemy, it deals 45 damage, it only costs 28 stamina, no cooldown, so you can spam this move if you want to, but it also gives you stamina regeneration, which is a good effect to have, so you'll never have to waste a turn recharging. Now, I actually don't think this skill is worth running just because he has better skills later on. However, I do have to say with this monster, he is rather more fun than he is competitive. You can tell that by his stats and by his poor trait. So with that being said, if you want to run Magic Hat, you're totally free to do so. However, I will give what I think is the best moveset for this monster. So moving on, we have Fast Time. May haste all targets, requires cooldown. It's a team ability, 26 stamina, 3 turn cooldown, and this skill can potentially give you haste. As you can see right here, the chance of actually landing haste is a 40%, which is less than all those 50% skills. And if I'm saying that it's never worth running a skill that says 50% to XYZ, can you imagine the chance of actually landing haste on your team? Chances are it won't land. However, with Mr. Flaky specifically, I would recommend running fast time just because it kind of fits his character's theme. If you recall, all of his skills are like time this, time that, and again, he's really more of a fun character than he is a competitive character. So that's one reason I recommend running fast time, but I also recommend testing this skill out, because if it's anything like Shakti, if hopefully by the time you're watching this video Shakti's haste ability hasn't been nerfed or hasn't been fixed, for some reason Shakti, he always lands haste. And moving on, we have another skill called Borrowed Time. Deals moderate special damage, target can't attack next turn, requires cooldown, 45 damage, 28 stamina, 2 turn cooldown, and it's time stop. Again, this is borrowed from Tymerion's ability, so not only does he have time machine, he also has time stop or stop time, which is pretty darn good. Unfortunately, unlike Tymerion, you don't get an extra turn. If you did get an extra turn, I think this monster could be significantly better, but it's still a really good skill because it's a deny skill that no monster besides Tymerion is immune to. Whether they have immunity to stun, immunity to freeze, immunity to possession, no one has an immunity to time stop. Another skill I definitely recommend you run on Mr. Flaky. Moving on to skills group 3, we have a skill called Accurate Hat. Deals heavy special damage, gains precision. It targets a single enemy, it's 55 damage, 31 stamina, it has no cooldown. Now the cool thing about this skill is that it increases your accuracy. And if you were to do Accurate Hat and then do a skill like Fast Time, that does increase the likelihood of landing haste. So that is a potential combo you can do. And that's actually one reason I don't recommend you run Magic Hat, and instead you should run Accurate Hat. Especially if you are planning on using Fast Time or Slow Beat Time, which I'll talk about right now. But yeah, Accurate Hat, definitely a good skill, one you might want to consider running. And in skills group 3, we also have a skill called Slow Beat Time. Deals moderate magic damage to all enemies, may slow down all targets. So it's the opposite of this previous skill. It's an AoE, deals 35 damage, it's 37 stamina, 3 turn cooldown, and there's a 40% chance to slow the enemy targets. And again, that's for each individual target. And like I mentioned earlier, if you use Accurate Hat and then Slow Beat Time, the chances of you actually landing slow are increased by 50%. However, it's still rather difficult to say if you're actually going to land it or not. But like I said, it does fit the theme of Mr. Flaky, his whole time stuff, his whole magic stuff. So for that reason, this is a potential skill you might want to run. And last but not least, we have a skill called Hard Time. Deals heavy special damage, may apply 100% damage reduction to target, requires cooldown. The only other monster to my knowledge that has a skill like this, there's probably another one, but I'm remembering Galante. Galante has this exact same skill. So this skill targets a single enemy, 55 damage, 31 stamina, 2 turn cooldown, and damage reduction by 100% is super good, especially if you're using it against the enemy's attacker. Can you just imagine if the enemy attacker had like 2 level 10 strength runes and you're just gonna be like, nope, hard time, and then their next attack they're using up stamina and it's gonna deal no damage. So this is a really good skill, and this is a skill I definitely think you should run. So I did mention there's a lot of skills you could potentially use with him, and that's because again, he's not meant to be competitive, he's meant to be more fun. So the 2 skills I think you absolutely have to run are Borrowed Time and Hard Time. And I think it's rather easy to find out why. You have a deny skill that works on just about every single monster, and then you have another, it's not really a deny skill. I guess you could argue it's a deny skill, but I really wouldn't because the enemy can still do freeze on you or possession or stun. With that being said, use Borrowed Time, use Hard Time, and then the last 2 skills are really up to you. If you wanted to, you could run both Fast Time and Slow Beat Time and just try to land that haste, and if the haste misses, try to land the slow. Or you could potentially run either Fast Time or Slow Beat Time and run Accurate Hat. And like I said, that's just because you get increased accuracy, and increased accuracy would increase the chance of landing either haste or slow. If you wanted to, you could run Magic Hat, but for the purposes of my analysis, I don't think it's one of the better skills to run. But if you're into the stamina regeneration, go ahead and run that. And if you're deciding between Fast Time or Slow Beat Time, I would actually recommend Fast Time, because with this monster you're going to want to run some speed runes. So if you have some speed runes, your speed is going to be higher, which means you'll benefit more from haste than you'll benefit from your enemies getting hit by a slow. But also just know the percentages are different. Haste gives your team a 20% increase, or whatever monster gets hit by haste, they'll get faster by 20%, whereas if you do slow, the enemy speed will drop by 25%. So that's something to keep in mind. So to repeat myself really quickly, the 2 skills you need are Borrowed Time and Hard Time, and then it's up to you, whatever combination you want to do of Fast Time, Slow Beat Time, and Accurate Hat. So as for what runes you should run on this monster, I recommend you should run 1 or 2 speed runes. That really depends on you and where you're at the game. You could also run 1 or 2 strength runes. If we look at his attacks, 45 damage, 55, 55, 35, keep in mind he has a rather mediocre base power, power. Some of you might be thinking running up power would be a waste, but not necessarily. Can you imagine if you were to use AoE slow and it was to hit 1 or 2 of the enemy targets? Not only will they lose a good chunk of their life, they're also going to be slowed, and then you can follow it up with any of these attacks. So that is a potential rune set. 1 or 2 speed runes, 1 or 2 strength runes, and like always, you could always run a life rune. This monster has 28k life, which for magic monsters is 9 out of 22 as of the time I'm recording this video, so a life rune could help him become a little more tankier. And that's incredibly beneficial when this monster has a deny skill like borrowed time and a hard time skill which will prevent him from taking damage. So he can become quite a nuisance to actually kill, especially if you can land stuff like haste and slow. So with that being said, that's my recommended skill sets and my recommended runes. If you're a little confused on runes, you can just do the 1 life, 1 strength, 1 speed, which is what I like to do a lot. This monster is not a main deny monster, and he's also not a main attacker, so use him as a secondary supportive monster. And that actually concludes my analysis on Mr. Flaky. Thanks to everyone who made it to the end. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, make sure to comment below what you thought about the video, and more importantly, comment below what you guys think of this monster. Is he worth getting? Is he not worth getting? Is he a good monster? Is he a competitive monster? Is he a fun monster? Just let me know your guys' thoughts. And guys, remember to dream big and pursue your passions.